Look, I'd never even worked in a restaurant before. I'd never even seen the back of a restaurant. It was just a dream in my mind. And you meet a lot of people saying, oh, I'd love to open a restaurant someday. And I was thinking, am I just one of those romantics who believes in that? And then, the second you actually put me in it, I'll be like, holy shit, that's not what I want to do. When my gorilla stint ended, I was already thinking that's going to be my last corporate job. Whatever it is I do after that, it's going to be me. So I need to think of something or give myself time or put myself in the right space to think of what is my idea going to be. Obviously, I knew it was related to food. I didn't know it was going to be a restaurant or whatever. Why is an Egyptian food famous? Why is Lebanese food more famous, Palestinian food, Syrian, Iraqi, and we're not famous? It was a bit of jealousy, if I'm honest. And I grew up knowing that Arabs in the region know our food very well.
Yes.
But outside of this realm, no one knows Egyptian food. I try and think of it of what would I have loved someone to tell me earlier. I have no regrets, but if I really had to pick one, it would be that I didn't start a bit earlier and gamble on myself earlier. In my mind, it was always like, you have to get the experience first. You need to be such an expert. And then that pulls you back because you're earning more and it's harder to break through the cycle.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new podcast episode from CareersTalks with Tamer. Today I have Seif. Seif is the CEO of Koshari Street, a restaurant that does Egyptian fusion street food, and they offer a very delicious dish which is the koshari, but also some additional dishes like shawarma and other Egyptian food and Egyptian dishes. Before that, Seif, you were in Germany, where you had a very stable career in procurement, and you were actually the director of procurement operations at a very big bakery. That was like your last kind of corporate role. Then you went to Gorillas, which is a delivery startup, and you were the director of global buying there. And now you're leading Koshari Street, which has two branches, one in Leicester Square and one in Koshari Street in the city, which I've recently visited, which was very nice. And I recommend anyone to go there if they want to have a nice dish of koshari.
Yes.
First of all, how are you doing, Seif?
Very good, very good.
Early start of the
feeling very
day.
fresh. Yeah, they don't know that.
And thank you for making the effort to come. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, pleasure.
Seif, you basically had this stable career and then you made that move. Tell us a bit more on that not early phase, but your experiences in Germany, basically. And how did that lead to where you are today, being the CEO of Koshari Street?
Happily. So how it led to this is a bunch of very random circumstances. But it started with me not wanting to come to the UK to do my studies because it was too expensive. So I started looking for alternatives. A friend of mine suggested Germany because it was free. I thought, yalla, let's go. Germany is the place to be. Let's go. It was 2010, so it was just coming out of the crisis.
Okay.
Germany was, remember, one of those few European countries that weathered through the crisis. So I was thinking stability, jobs, go to Germany. That's the safe space. That was always how I thought. Very risk averse.
Interesting.
Like we say in Arabic, gamble hit next to the wall. And I ended up in Germany. I had never even been. I didn't know anything about the country. I ended up there, studied my master's degree, which was very interesting. It was kind of a practical degree, and then started working in food at Mars. The reason why I started working in food is because I always loved food. I always loved kind of doing something with food. And I thought a nice, stable way to start that is go in a food company. I didn't know anything about chocolate, but I knew I loved chocolate. A few years in, I started building experience. I'd done roles elsewhere outside Germany and back in Germany, and kind of started growing a bit more confidence in what I can do, what am I, what do I know, and then decided procurement's going to be my path. Why? Because again, it was like the safe
option within food,
but at the same time exciting. I didn't want to stay in like managerial finance or whatever I was doing before, because you don't really make decisions there, even within a corporate. So you're more on the passive side. very important, but very, very much on the passive side. So I thought, okay, it's either sales or buying. Sales is very risky, and it requires that charisma and that kind of character. I never believed I had that. Procurement was about calculation, negotiation, and again, I didn't really know how to negotiate, but I thought jump in the deep end and learn. And I did that. I loved it, enjoyed it, did a few procurement roles. Yeah, I think just building bits of confidence also builds the understanding that, you know, with every career progression, with every promotion, with every salary increase, you get really excited about it for a couple of months, and then life gets normalized. So stability for me, it was never a thing I thought about. It was the status quo.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't wake up in the morning and think, oh, how amazing, my life is stable. I don't have to worry because my paycheck's coming at the end of the month. And I didn't know anything else. That was life. And so when that is life, you start trying to find the holes. Oh, what is wrong with my career? And it was not exciting enough. I wasn't driving enough of what I am passionate about in a huge company. At the end of the day, whether I live or die, go or stay, the company stays the same. Everything stays the same. They'll find a different guy to replace me, probably even smarter. So it plays with your head in that way. But there was a constant thought of, yeah, but entrepreneurship's not for me. I'm not that kind of guy. My dad wasn't a serial entrepreneur. My mum wasn't a serial entrepreneur. I wasn't like racing motorbikes when I was a kid, jumping off, the first one to jump off a bridge and that kind of thing, which in my mind was what an entrepreneur is. Yeah, and then that all changed when I went to Gorillas, and I was surrounded by entrepreneurs, people who had done stuff before, people who were on their way to doing stuff in the future. I was working closely with the founders. So I got to really see what it is like to set up a company, scale it to an insane level, to have that kind of press coming at you and all that. And what I thought was a superstar job turned out to be a much more realistic prospect. It was something that, no, wait, I can do that. You know, not that they weren't intelligent and weren't clever, but it gave me more confidence in what I can do. And indeed, my role was super entrepreneurial. So even though I was still working for a company that was paying me, the nature of the role itself was you have to invent your own path, hire whatever amount of people you decide you need to hire from wherever, you know, build the products that you decide and so on. So it was a lot of trusting myself, loving myself, believing in myself and so on.
You gave me a lot of bits and pieces. I think the one that resonated with me the most is you always search for that, like, oh, okay, now I'm here, but what's next? You know, so it's interesting that you've mentioned that. And then, so I want to touch on you having that very stable career path in Germany. And you had these thoughts of, okay, I'm here now, what's next? But it takes a good amount of convincing yourself to leave such a path and go and head a restaurant. So tell us about that. Like, was there any self-doubt? What was that thinking process there? And how was that, like, okay, I took the decision. Like, what was the process there?
I love how you say, was there any self-doubt? No, there still is very much self-doubt. Look, I'd never even worked in a restaurant before. I'd never even seen the back of a restaurant. It was just a dream in my mind. And you meet a lot of people saying, oh, I'd love to open a restaurant someday. And I was thinking, am I just one of those romantics who believes in that? And then, you know, the second you actually put me in it, I'll be like, holy shit, that's not what I want to do. The big trigger was, well, Gorillas really had an impact for me. So spent 2 years there, and everything I was doing was entrepreneurial. And it constantly in my mind, I was like, what if I was doing that exact same thing for myself? What would that be like? Yes, more risk, because ultimately it's the capital that I'm responsible for and so on, and I have a mortgage. I had newly just bought a flat in Berlin.
Wow, okay.
So, and I bought the flat in Berlin at the previous job, the bakery one, where it was very stable, and it was also an element of seeking something to be thrilled about.
Oh wow, yes.
You know, it's like, okay, I'm at this stage, might as well buy a flat.
Yeah.
That's what you do, you know. And then COVID hit. I went back home to Egypt to spend a good 6 months still at the old job. And that's when a few recruiters reached out for the Gorillas role. And I was like, okay, what is this company that's got loads of recruiters looking for people? It's exciting. You can even hear it in the tone of voice of the recruiter. So took the interview one after the other, and then landed the job all whilst I was in Egypt. Told my boss in Germany, hey, I'm quitting. Still in Egypt during COVID. It was this kind of crazy time. Bearing in mind, during COVID, I had already started doing a lot more cooking than I was, because I had the time. I was with my mom all day, so we would do recipes together. She's the one who mostly taught me how to cook, even though my dad cooks as well. And it was all through Skype when I came to Germany and realized I don't like student food. I want to eat what my mom
We've all been through that phase.
Yeah, so it was like a multitude of different factors coming together. That's why I say it was so random. COVID, being close with my mom, having more time to make food and focus on specific things I didn't know, like fatir, for example, this sort of Egyptian pizza, if you will.
Pizza,
When I joined Gorillas, I went back from Egypt to Germany, joined Gorillas, and it was immediately into this entrepreneurial world. And then when my Gorilla stint ended, I was already thinking that's going to be my last corporate job. Whatever it is I do after that, it's going to be me. So I need to think of something, or give myself time, or put myself in the right space to think of what is my idea going to be. Obviously, I knew it was related to food. I didn't know it was going to be a restaurant or whatever. And then took about 4 months of a break, where it wasn't really a break. I was learning more how to do fatir. I was obsessed with it. And started making it. I opened an Instagram page, which, again, I was never really the Instagram guy. I just had a profile private, me and my friends, that's it. And I didn't ask for anything from anyone. Then opened this other page, and then just started posting videos of me making the fatir. Nothing more. Got a few followers, not much. But then I thought, why not open up ordering? I have nothing to lose, you know? And it was
by that time you weren't working at
I wasn't
Gorillas.
working at
You
Gorillas.
stopped that job.
Yeah, I skipped by that bit. And then Gorillas really gave me this kind of guts to not necessarily follow all the rules by the T.
Yeah.
So to sell food in Germany or even the UK, you have to have this and that kind of certificate. And I was like, yeah, but I'm doing something super small scale at home. Who's going to focus on that? So that was never me, that guy who took that kind of risk, especially when it's German law involved. You don't want to piss them off. So yeah, it did it, and it was small bits of gratification. So someone would order, yes, they knew me or whatever, and then their friend would order, and that was so exciting. And the level of excitement was something I had never felt during my career, from the pay rises, etc. So I realized I might be taking far more risk in terms of instability, in terms of, do I have money today or not? Can I pay salaries?
Yeah.
But definitely the feeling of euphoria gives me, and I don't know if that's a feeling anyone would get. Maybe in different circumstances, these feelings would have scared me. It just happened to be. But
that
I think
it's
it was
natural.
So random, and because it was so random, I figured I would have gotten to that path anyway, sooner or later.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that's kind of the journey. And then very randomly, I was in the UK visiting my current wife during that time, and I remember distinctly sat in her sort of basement flat, looking at my business plan for a fatir place, a small little fatir shack in Berlin. That's what I was working on. Who's going to be my partner? What am I going to do? And so on. And I remembered that a year and a half ago, during my time at Gorillas, I was chatting randomly to one of the girls on my team, and she said that her friend's dad is a partner in this company called Koshari Street in London. Here's his number if you I didn't reach out.
Yeah.
And then I found the number. I was like, well, I'm here in London. I might as well reach out and just ask him for his advice. What was his journey like? Went and sat with the guy, jumped 3 hours in. I was enamored by him. I was, even though, he wasn't, Koshari Street at that point was one small shop. It wasn't like the, wow, look at this amazing journey in this company. But it was more the character
of
the guy. Mm-hmm. His name's Salah. He's older than I am. Mm-hmm. And we just had an amazing conversation. I remember them meeting my girlfriend saying, I just had an amazing conversation with this guy. And he told me so much about what to do, what not to do. At that point, I left the meeting. There was no prospect of working with him. I was just there to get advice. Then he invited me over to his house the next day to meet his family. And his family, wonderful people. And it's so random and rare to just bump into someone whose phone number you have, and there's such a connection and such quick building of trust. And then he pitched it to me. He said, look, we're looking for somebody to come on board as a partner, as a CEO, to take this restaurant to a next level. He is an education guy. He's had his whole career in managing his business, manufacturing business and whatnot. Nothing to do with food.
Okay.
It was a passion project to begin with, but there was serious interest in turning this around into something proper. We're not a small place anymore, and they had the right vision, or the same vision as I did, which was this dream of, why is an Egyptian food famous? Why is Lebanese food more famous, Palestinian food, Syrian, Iraqi, and we're not famous? It was a bit of jealousy, if I'm honest. And I grew up knowing that Arabs in the region know our food very well.
Yes.
But outside of this realm, no one knows Egyptian food. So yeah, we discussed this a lot, and 2 months after that meeting, I was packing my stuff and leaving for the UK.
Wow.
Starting a brand new life, leaving my super beautiful comfort zone, flat, friends, things I've built over 13 years, having to get a visa to live in this country again. You know, it's not a nice feeling. I had suffered from that, and then got my citizenship, and I was like, the visa days are over. But it all seemed like it was a no-brainer for that goal, and I never felt that with any company.
Yes.
I would never have given up all that kind of stuff for a role. And by the way, 2 things. As a kid, I never liked koshari because it didn't have meat. But then as a kid, I was a bit weird. I'd go to McDonald's and order a Big Mac with nothing else but bread and meat. No sauce, no lettuce, no pickles, no... Yeah. This is not... It says more about me than it does about koshari. And then I started liking it later on in my time, because my dad managed to put it in the right occasion, which is very crazy how you can make someone like the exact same thing by just changing the environment, changing the storytelling and so on. And the second thing is, I had been to Koshari Street prior to meeting Salah at least 4 times. When I was living in London for a brief stint, when I was working, my headquarters for this bakery was here in London. And the first day I met my boss, he was like, let me take you to this amazing Egyptian place, because our office was in Covent Garden.
So if your boss at your previous
English
job
guy.
is the one who told you.
Yeah. No. Robert, his name was. English guy was like, you're Egyptian, right?
Is he?
I'll take you to this amazing Egyptian place I go to every day. And I was like, English guy going to Egyptian place eating koshari?
I don't know about it.
That's not anymore the Edgware Road. No, I did know about it. I was like, yeah, I know it.
Okay.
But it was very interesting for me. And then I remember several times being there and thinking, imagine if that place, was mine. What would I do differently?
Wow.
And so on. I knew nothing about the backstory, who was behind it, and so on. Didn't even know if it was Egyptian owners. But it definitely is funny how things work.
Yes.
Years later on, and by sheer random chance.
And you said you had that thing always where, and I think it's not a bad thing. It's natural for us to always ask, oh, what's next? Of course, too much of these questions is maybe not very, it's stressful, but it's always good to have that, okay, I'm stable, but there's still something missing. And if you acknowledge it, and in your case, you acted on it, that's what makes the difference, or that's what sets people apart. Whether you have this thing and you just ignore it, or you have this thing and you see, no, I actually want to do something. So you called the guy and you said, let me see, that step is where is the differentiating factor.
Imagine if I hadn't saved this number, or hadn't remembered, or hadn't called it.
And a lot of people just, because of different factors that we're going to touch on, just ignore.
I felt awkward calling him. It's not like this is my natural habitat. I call people, I'm this sales guy. But I thought, why not? I mean well.
And
what's the worst that could happen? It's on the phone.
Exactly. People are always welcome to share their experiences.
And actually that's something I think about all the time is the when you say what's next, the question of what's next, you can ask that in a frustrated way, or what's next? Yeah. When am I going to get that next move, that next bump, that next salary, whatever? Or it can be asked in a eye sparkling kind of way, and it makes a huge difference in the realization of the outcome, because like this inner satisfaction. I know that we're 2 stores in. That's nothing to write home about. When I'm 50 stores in, maybe I'll be looking at when am I going to be at 200.
There's always,
but as long as like I'm happy with what I have. If I, God forbid, die right now, I'm happy with what I've done and so on. Then that's what matters.
Yeah,
that wasn't the mentality I had during the career days. It was more like itchy and dissatisfaction and frustration. And then you get the salary raise or the role raise, and you get this director title. You look at your card a few times, and then it goes stabilizes. Same as yesterday and so on.
Yes, and I think, given they were touching on more of your internal thinking process, when it comes to self-doubt, how did you deal with it? Like, because it can really make it or break it, and everyone has self-doubt, and I have self-doubt. So in your case, like, how do you approach like what's your approach for self-doubt when these thoughts start coming? Like, what do you talk back to them, or do you just act, or you put a list of like?
As much as I'd love to give like an ideal answer, I don't always manage to get through my self-doubt. Yesterday I was on the phone with my mum, who was talking me through my moments of self-doubt and is this the right thing? Can I do this or not? And that got me through it. Other days, meditation will get me through. Other days, sport will. My wife will. A random occurrence at the restaurant would. So I rely on a multitude of things, and I try and create more of those things that will pick me out of my rut. Because the rut exists for everyone. And that was the first thing that got me to sit still with myself, is knowing that from Elon Musk to Jeff Bezos to someone like myself or anything in between, there will be self-doubt on different scales, but it's a natural part of how we exist as humans, because otherwise we wouldn't have survived. You have to doubt and be careful and so on. But routine really, really helps. Like having your fixed sort of routine. Again, not perfect at that. I'm still working on making it better. But as long as it's like 70% there, then I'm very happy with myself, and it gets me through a lot of self-doubt. And then there's always this question of the opposite of self-doubt is self-belief. But self-belief can be looked at as rigidity, or you believe against all odds and against all information out there that you're right. What the hell is this? This is, you're too, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you're too arrogant.
Egoist. Yeah.
And it's really a fine line. It's crazy, but it is a fine line. You don't always know if you're just stuck in your ways and you're so determined in a good way or in a dumb way.
Yeah.
But you just have to go through it and
try,
and the failure is not that scary. Like, that's what I keep telling myself. It's like, okay, then what?
What's the worst?
What is going to happen?
Yeah.
I think of really bad scenarios. I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage back in Germany. My rent here in London's a lot. All these things. If one day to the next, like, something happens, I need to pump in cash. Yeah, but then what? Like, the amount of experience and information I've built through the years, and not just me, but you and everyone else, is not just sat there idle doing nothing. It's working to better you. It's working to solve your problems. And being thrown in the problem, you would be surprised at the ability your brain could come up with to fix things.
You're right. Yeah.
Last minute, and you're like, where did that come from? This, and then the last thing is that, and this is something out of my control, as opposed to sport, meditation, whatever. These are things I can control.
Yeah.
The one thing that's out of my control, and I'm still learning how to manipulate it better is this defiance, this sense of defiance. Some days, something will come at me hard, and I don't know out of where I will get this defiance law. I will stand in front of the entire universe and defy it until the last breath, and I don't know where I get that energy from. And other days it's not there, right? Just to be, and when it happens, you really feel invincible. And you're gonna solve the damn problem, come hell or high water. And that's a great thing to feel, because I never had that as a natural thing, you know?
I think, like, when you touched on that self-belief, I think that's very important to remind yourself at least what you've been through. Like, you don't have to convince, we're capable of solving this problem. Maybe you're not. Maybe it's a big problem and you might not solve it, but it's good to at least remind yourself of, and this is a very good strategy, actually. I don't do it, and it's very good to think of it and try to implement it. Is just think of the problems you've been through and you solved, and that by itself can just give you that, you know, that push of, if you've solved XYZ problems, why are you doubting yourself about this specific problem? So I think that's a very good strategy. Yeah,
absolutely. And this is, for me, meditative philosophy. Like, how do you view hardships and problems in life, and how do you accept them and take them in with kind of like almost like, you're not gonna beat me. I'm here. Come at me. Come at me as a problem. I'll take you in. I'll care for you. I'll look at you and so on. I'll try and look at you from different angles and figure out how I'm going to solve you, just like any other problem. And that kind of calms the mind, the monkey brain, as they say of it.
100%. I agree. Seif, like, I think experiences like these where there's like the external struggle, but there's also, or not struggle, like the external journey and the internal journey that you have to go through to make such a bold career move. Tell us about more of that internal journey in terms of like shifts that you have that happened in your mindset that you're actually now like aware of, like, oh, okay, this actually changed, or my perception of what a successful career is actually changed, or who I am as Seif changed as well. Like, any of that happened internally, and what were like the key noticeable changes?
In fear of repeating myself, there was. Do you remember the song, I get knocked down, but I get up again?
Yeah.
I listen to that song very differently now. Like,
okay.
Just the words resonate a little bit more than, and it is true. You will get knocked down, you get up again, you're not going to beat me down. Like, that just mentality is so nice to hold, regardless of your capability on the spectrum of intelligence or creativity or whatever. Like, wherever you see yourself, this is a good mindset to have, because it keeps you going. The other thing is, definition of success in society in general. People will have different definitions. I don't believe there is one that is right, but society in general will define it with financial success, more or less. You know, when you
especially in our region, maybe
in our region, like even here in London, you say he's a very successful guy. What will you think? It's not that he has a great family. You'll think he's got so for me, I really define it as the ability to control my own happiness regardless of circumstances. This to me is success.
And that happened recently, or was it because of that internal journey that happened?
Yeah, 100% because of the internal journey. I didn't even think about it that way before. My dad always would explain this kind of analogy for me, which is like this triangle. Your life is a triangle. One angle is you, the other angle is others, and the third angle is your relationship with your creator, whatever religion you have. And if you have an equilateral triangle, that's the ideal thing. All have to be relatively equal. My mentor and partner at this business has a similar philosophy, which is like the 5 F's: friends, finances, fitness, faith, and the 5th F I forgot right now. But the idea is also this kind of balance, and you don't always have to strike an equilibrium across all angles at the same time, but just the knowledge of, if I'm investing a bit more in friends right now, there will come a time where I need to invest a bit more in family or in finances or in faith. So that's success for me, is like the ability to define my own angles of the triangle and to know how to control my own feeling of happiness, whether it's a good day, a bad day, a medium day, it's sunny, it's rainy. That to me is a successful human being, because they are happy regardless. Nothing is beating them down, you know. So that changed definitely, and it still is changing. And I can't lie to you and say every single day I wake up feeling like that.
Yeah,
because I used to listen to people who have made that leap and maybe made a few more leaps in terms of success, and it's so easy for them to talk about the journey going back. And I was like, yeah, but you're now successful.
Yeah,
you can't tell me. Whereas it is a continuous journey. It doesn't stop, no matter how many millions you have or so on.
And you told me like you have big goals for Koshari Street, and it takes a lot of effort and more work, also externally and internally. What do you think are things you're still aiming to change in Seif, or in Seif's mindset or perception of success, that will get you where you want to be? Like, still things that you want to work on and improve to get there?
Being a little bit less critical, self-critical.
Okay, interesting.
Which, of course, is something I've always had. The first, I look at the problem, and the first reason is usually me.
Okay.
Not that it should be others. I don't want to go to that opposite spectrum.
Yeah, but what? Yeah.
But just like giving yourself a little bit, cutting yourself some slack. Yeah. That for me is something I have to remind myself with. Listening to others a little bit more, especially during times of crisis, rather than just in my head. And if I would pick a third thing, it would be to try and maintain a better balance in terms of getting your routine right, because I still think that is the fundamental of, at the beginning of the day, like those 2 hours. When I came in, you asked me, what are you doing? What were you doing in the morning, and so on. And that defines my entire day almost.
Yeah.
How my day starts, and I have full control over that. No one's pulling me out of bed. I am doing it.
Yes.
So I'm still working on that. I've come a huge way, and I'm very proud of myself for that. But there's still a lot to be covered in that sense. And I think those three things, if I can master those, then I'm at a much, much better position, not just for Koshari, but for my wife, for my family, for my mates.
And for Koshari Street, what do you think are like the biggest challenges you're facing now that you want to like
push through?
Yes.
The biggest challenge we've always faced is it's an unknown cuisine. Egyptian food, no one knows it. And so you have, out of this one statement, you have three problems. One is people don't know what it is, so it's a risk for them to try it.
Interesting.
Two, you need to find the right words and the right way to explain it. Remember what I told you? My dad changed my perception of Koshari. It's the same dish.
Yeah.
And it made me love it. It made me see the whole thing. So how you tell the story of the food and what they're about to eat, because food is really personal, more than people think. It's not just calories in and out. It's literally something that goes inside your body like nothing else. And so the story and so on is very important. And then the third is how to make it top of mind. Okay. So I may have introduced you, let's say you're someone who didn't know anything about Egyptian food or koshari, which is one of many, many Egyptian staples. I introduce you to it in the right way, right fashion. You smell it, you see it, you love it. I tell you the whole story. So now you have the knowledge, you have the emotional hook, but you're going to go back to work and you're going to see all the other standard Mexican burgers, tacos, and you're going to forget about it the next time you're hungry, because your brain will think of, there's the recency bias, there's the familiarity bias. So to break through that, I need to bring you in again via the same exact way, telling you the story, introducing you to the food almost again, and then again, for 5 times at least, until it starts competing with those others. So if it's kind of an uphill battle versus if I was making smash burgers, I don't even need to explain what smash burgers is. I don't need to put a picture. You know what it will look like. And so on. So that creates extra challenges. But I went into it for that.
Yes.
I didn't go in to sell food and make money by selling food. Yeah. I went in to sell Egyptian food, even if it's with a twist, even if it's fused, even if it's adjusted and adapted to the local taste, which it has to be.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is the challenge that makes me more excited. And when I'm doing shifts at the shop, which I like to do, and I meet a customer, I try and see like what brings the sparkle to their eyes in my storytelling about the food. And there's lots of stories.
Interesting, very interesting. Yeah. Might come and shadow you one of these days.
Yeah, it would be great. Yeah, come do a shift.
Yes, or I stand outside and just try
amazing. Free labor is something we absolutely love.
No, I'll try to come one day for sure because you're also nearby.
Yeah.
So
and then obviously. It's a super competitive market.
Yes.
London, in my opinion, is the most competitive in all of Europe. And people are eager to try new things. So that's an opportunity. So yeah, between those 4 things, I'd say that summarizes all the challenges that I get at Koshari.
And I'm excited to see how you approach these challenges.
I mean, look, sushi was a brand new, weird thing at one point, and now everyone eats it and everyone loves it, including myself.
Yes.
How did they do that with raw fish? So if they could do it with raw fish, I could do it with something. At least that's not raw.
Yes, 100%. And there's a lot of, young people watching us in the Arab world and outside the Arab world as well. Like, for someone like you who had, they had this idea, or like, if there's like one core piece of advice that you want to give to that person watching us, who has that thing at the back of their mind, like what would that be?
I'd say a few things. I'd try and think of it of what would I have loved someone to tell me earlier. I have no regrets, but if I really had to pick one, it would be that I didn't start a bit earlier and gamble on myself earlier. In my mind, it was always like, you have to get the experience first. You need to be such an expert. And then that pulls you back because you're earning more and it's harder to break through the cycle. So I'd say don't be afraid to start early, because you start early, like this fail fast, quickly kind of thing. I don't know exactly what
fail fast, learn. Yeah, but
whatever.
I get you. Basically.
Everyone knows what we're talking about. I mean, the idea is that you're young, you can take hardships.
Yeah.
There's not an entire family dependent on you, and if there is, that's a different story. But that's one I would have loved to tell myself. Love yourself. That's something my mom always says as well. It's like, it's not just belief, but like care. You're there with your organs and your brain and so on, with capabilities.
Wise,
just love it, because that's what's keeping Koshari where it is, or moving Koshari forward, or whatever other concept. Rather than like this kind of being hard on yourself. Oh, when am I going to do this? Oh, what am I? We all have these things like, oh, am I a failure? Is this? And especially, I think school in our world is like shaping the entire perception of your capabilities.
True.
I was not good at school. I was really not that good at school. And in my mind, I was like, geez, I'm not going to manage, because if I'm not good at school, how am I going to be good at uni? And if I'm not good at uni, I'm not good at life. I'm like, is that it? Am I destined to fail? And luckily that changed very quickly at uni, and then after uni. And I realized school is very overrated in terms of its weight on who you will be, because you're just a kid.
Yes.
And this is just one curriculum out of many. So if you're not good at maths, it's not the end of the world. I'm still not good at maths, and I don't care anymore, because someone else will be good at maths, and they can be my partner. And we balance that out. And the third and most important things is like the relationships you surround yourself with.
Yes.
Whether it's friends. And I know it's very typical, and it reminds me of my dad, like a sohba al-hilwa and all that kind of stuff. My dad used to say, and I'm like, oh man, get out of here kind of thing. But it is true, because you're not a super invincible human being. You're a sponge. You'll copy things subconsciously from other people. So might as well make it inspiring things.
Yes.
Rather than less inspiring things. And especially your partners. Pick your partners very well over the business idea or the plan. And I've seen good partners. I've seen bad partners. Not at Koshari, but in general. And I'm very, very lucky to say that the partners I deal with are amazing human beings. And because of them,
that makes a big difference.
It moves the ship forward.
Yes.
And you want to be an amazing partner to them as well.
Yes. No, 100%. And beyond that, like if they want to assess that decision of making that bold move, the people watching us again, are there like any factors you would tell them, like pay attention to XYZ or assess XYZ before you make the move? Or any, for example, red flags, like, or deal breakers if this is part of the process, for example, or if you're gonna risk X amount of runners, don't do, like, is there any such thing? Or if you have that inner call, just go for it simply and that's it?
I'd say so, because I think risk is relative. What I think is risky for you might not be. And so on. I don't know what the financial situation for someone. 200 grand is nothing. I'll gamble. What I will say is a red flag, apart from bad partners, is this belief that if I don't make it quick, then something's wrong and I need to pivot. Like, I really feel, again, not to sound like an old guy, but Instagram or generally, it just makes you feel like there's all these super successful people who've made it so quick. And this guy is so quirky and built a product and he sold it to his mate. And this kind of Gary V lifestyle is not really the world. Like, yes, Gary V is real, but I'm pretty sure he's failed a million times, and he probably talks about it. Elon Musk failed a million times, and look at where the guy is. Besides his political leanings, I'm not a fan in general, but whoever you pick, they will have gone through bad times, and after the success, it's rarely spoken about. But just know that the bad times are essential to the journey, and you can't just make it so quick. And if it happens too quick, then there's probably, maybe you're lucky, great, well done. But maybe, it was a scheme or something's wrong. Like, I just don't believe in quick solutions or shortcuts so much. Of course, journeys may last super long. Like, you may be 10 years in the making and you're still where you were. Maybe it's time to pivot. Don't be scared of that as well. That's another risk. Because when you get set in your own idea and no, just give me a few more years. No, like, wait. You have to kind of be self-critical enough, but not too much and not too confident. But this get-rich-quick kind of mentality. I want to be, like, I hear it often, like, I want to make my first million before 30. I don't know why I changed into American accent, by the way, but it always feels like it's come on, man. I want to make my first whatever in this, like, that's not for me, that can't be the motivation that will keep you through the bad times in the company. It's more like the vision you have for your product or service. Where do you want to see, your koshari bowl eaten by how many people in the world? And you don't have to put a specific timeline that if it doesn't happen, you're a failure. It's too much pressure on yourself. It's so many unknown factors. COVID, what the hell is that? No one even knew what that was. I was gonna, for all I know, instead of the gorilla stint, by the way, I was gonna be in Australia for 5 weeks enjoying my time. COVID came, it cancelled everything. It changed my entire life. That thing. So
no, I agree. Taking it like one by one and just not
enjoying the hardships.
The outcome, exactly.
The hardships are super enjoyable.
Go through every step and just see what you're learning. Do you still have that passion? Do you not? Why? That helps you assess Seif, I really want to thank you for your time.
Absolutely,
I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank
Me
you.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
I
beautiful
appreciate
coffee
it.
as
No
well.
worries. So you made it. Thank you.